All right, it's that time. You've all been waiting so long for this one. The Redfall.
Want to save those woos.
The Redfall review brought to you by twitch.tv/Selkies, sponsored by Super Gamer Boys and Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew?
I'm just
kidding.
That
that was weird. Peepsy. That was the right one.
Yes, Adrian and I, we always talk about what we're playing. You guys know what we're playing. But this week, we wanted to bring you the official Redfall review from none other than Selkies here. You suffered through the game. I don't know, maybe you enjoyed it, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Redfall. So, Selks, you have the floor.
All right. Well, so I ended up playing Redfall through its entirety. So instead, I'm going to review Spider-Man 2002 for the PlayStation 2.
All right, cool. Weird.
I was going to say, you're the one guy that finished it?
Yeah, right? Spider-Man was made by Activision. I'm just kidding. I'm going to Redfall. So, generally coming in at a normal price tag, $70, I'm going to outright just start this off by saying it is not worth $70. There is no freaking way that you can charge someone $70 for a game of this quality.
Can you imagine someone buying that game for $70 and getting what they got? Like, I would be...
I'd be pissed.
Furious.
Oh, my God.
I would have had a raging tantrum if it was not on Game Pass. And I was super excited for this stupid game. My God.
Garrett was, too. He was through the roof about this game.
Every trailer they showed,
so good.
I was like, this is it. This is so fucking cool. I'm in.
I just love Arcane Austin, man.
Yeah.
Everything they do, from Dishonored. Oh, God. Just Dishonored alone, actually. Just one of the best things I've ever played. But the game itself, I'll start with a bunch of good and we'll end with the bad. So on the good side, from a graphical setting, the game is very, very pretty to look at. I will say, like, as you on PC, obviously, without the 30 FPS lock, we'll talk about that. It's really nice to be able to go into a lot of these environments, like a lot of the towns and city area that you were in. It's all decorated very festively, like Halloween, kind of like it's in that time frame where it takes place. It is just so pretty to look at. Even down to just the interiors of houses and buildings that you go into. It doesn't seem like a lot of reused assets. It just seems like almost one person went in and made that environment for each one. And it's really nice. I actually really enjoyed that. Aesthetically, the reasoning why you're stuck inside this area is very, very interesting too. Like this vampire cult and group of mercenaries are essentially trying to take over this city and achieve one particular goal. And you have mercenaries, which are not vampires by any means. They're just militant occult followers. They just have guns. They like vampires. They read Twilight. Game, set, match.
Okay.
But as you're progressing through...
Is that you find like random copies of Twilight strewn across the world? That would be fantastic, honestly.
That would, oh my God, I'd lose it if that was real. That would be so funny. No. But they're all, obviously I'm not going to give anything away. I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. They spend all of their times basically fortifying different areas around the town and city. So Far Cry 5... that's where you can see the comparison. Because your whole goal as you're going through is you find a safe house, you achieve the safe house and get its power started, you go do a mission, go back, kill another boss. These are mini bosses.
Okay.
And you do that for each small section on the map. Each one is like kind of chunked out. It is so boring. It's so boring doing that because these missions are legit. Like the first one, so there's 2 missions at each safe house. The first one is generally like go find this group of people, find out what they're doing to find out where what they call an underboss is. And that's just, like a lieutenant, I guess, of some of the bigger bosses that you experience in each chapter. You just go there, you kill a bunch of the most mindless NPCs I have ever seen in my entire life. Watching these guys with guns, like you'll have a dude in your sights and he'll just turn and run into the fence right next to him without even trying to get around it or turn. He'll just keep running into the fence.
So you play this on your own?
I played this with 2 friends.
Okay.
So for me, when I was playing by myself, I was bored to tears. When I was with friends, it was actually a wonderful time. Because the characters by themselves do not like really talk too much. They don't speak or do anything except for like they see somebody, they're like, oh, wow, that's scary. And then they just move on. But when you actually have other players in there, they actually have some interesting background stories that they like passively tell each other that is very interesting and sometimes really funny. Like the characters communicating with each other is really cool. And with the characters in mind, the skill trees that they have are actually very fun, fleshed out, good skills. Like the things that you can do, it's justified. Like you have the character I played, his name was Devinder. He is a cryptid hunter.
Ooh.
And he's like famous on YouTube or Twitch or whatever the heck. He's just, you know, the stereotypical Twitch guy. Mm-hmm. And he's very knowledgeable about all these things that are cryptic, you know, like the vampire. So it's super cool to hear him actually like spout knowledge to it. And one of the other characters is like, wow, that sounds like bullshit. He's like, well, you're experiencing it right now, you know, and they just don't believe him, even though they're experiencing it firsthand. So like the dialogue between the characters is actually very good. I give it a lot of credit because it seems like they actually cared about what the characters are supposed to be fleshed out to be and how they act, even in cutscenes. And the cutscenes are done via like slideshow-esque kind of things, like little scenes that are pasted on screen, slowly zooming out or zooming in.
Yeah, what was that about? That looks like the most low effort.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but through the dialogue itself, it sounded good. They needed to animate the cutscenes to make them seem more personable. Because
they tried to pass animatics off as cutscenes.
Yeah, and it's each time you accept one of the new main missions, you get one of those. And it just every single time. And I guess it's like kind of relevant to what the mission is, but it doesn't really give you anything. Because the mission itself is being told to you through text before you hit accept, and then it goes into this slow panning like slideshow essentially of what you were going to do and how your character is like, well, I don't like firehouses. I can't slide down the pole. That scares me. Like, okay, cool. Good talk, Junior. Really needed that dialogue. And then you go do the mission at the firehouse, you know, like it doesn't need to be done unless they just did a full dialogue, like, or a GTA-esque like cutscene. You walk into the room, you start the mission, bunch of characters talk, you describe what you need to do, out the door. I would have loved that. Because there's plenty of side characters that could have had cool, you know, backstories and personable moments, but they just were there as like, oh, I am vendor. Oh, I am healer. I am priest. You know, it's like, okay, you didn't flesh any of them out. It was unfortunate.
I mean, it sounds like the priority here was to get the game working, right? And because of that, everything else took a hit.
Came second. Everything else came second. So the only way I'm trying to like be like optimistic here and not just like completely trash on this game.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as like even balanced as I can here. I will say outright, if you are playing this game with friends and the game is on sale for at least $30 to $40 in that price range, playing it with friends would be a completely worth it time and experience for you. Because there's enough differential between the characters, what they can do, how they talk, the weapons, how unique they are, how they feel, which I will say the gun feel in that is awesome. Some of the weapons feel so nice to shoot. The rifles feel meaty. Like when you actually hit a shot, it feels like you did in real life in a kind of way. I know it's dark, but like it just...
Yeah, just like I used to back home, you know?
Yeah, back home just capping people. No, but it just feels meaty, like you actually shot a rifle. Like the sound and everything to it was fantastic. The abilities look good on screen. The dev's skill, he throws like this little spear that just shocks the area around it. When you throw it, like the noise it makes and everything, and the sound of the static and everything is just very, very satisfying. It gives you a lot of like feedback on that as you're playing, and it just feels good. It just feels overall nice. And all the characters that my friends had played, there was one we did not play, and that was I can't remember his name, but he's the sniper equivalent.
Okay.
Every one of them felt good. Their abilities felt nice. Everything looked good, especially looked good on the animations from what they were doing. They all looked great.
What did you play this on? I'm sorry.
PC.
PC. Okay.
I paid it through Xbox Game Pass on PC.
I was waiting. I was like, oh, I hope he talks about that whole frame rate debacle, but I guess you didn't have to deal with that. So
yeah. That is one thing I was going to bring up too, is when it comes to people that are flaming this game, it comes from a place of truth, which is completely valid. You have the right to be upset. But people putting in reviews that this game is horrible because it's locked at 30 FPS on consoles, they announced that before the game even came out. You had to know that was coming. I don't agree with it. I do not agree with it at all. It should have come out at 60, ready to go.
Well,
but it's,
and I think what threw a lot of people off is, and I mean, we even touched on it in the story earlier, they originally came out and said it was going to be 60, and then came out 2 weeks before release and said, well, not at release. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's the one feature we knew about.
That we were expecting.
Forever expecting, and now it's not going to be there. And the fact, I think what the even bigger blow is the fact that Xbox, at least in my brain, is a console first. So like, I feel like on their flagship console, it should run the best, right? Especially
on the most powerful console in the world.
Top.
It should be
the most top tier game at that point,
right?
And unfortunately, it fell flat on its face on that one. And again, like I said, they announced it, they said it, it's not right, but you had to expect that after it was announced and you still bought it. It's kind of a self-inflicted thing there, but I don't agree that it should have happened. It should have been 60 FPS out the box immediately. I'm not going to make this too freaking long. I'm just going to I'll summarize everything from this point. Environment, I will give that a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Weapons and UI, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10 as well. Because the UI was functional, simple, direct. You knew what you were looking at. You knew how to navigate it. Didn't have a single issue with it. AI, that's a freaking 0. That is a huge 0. Huge 0.
I've seen the clips where like, not even the grunts, but even like mini bosses, like where like people are just running right up to the mini boss, and the mini boss is just floating there in his protective orb, and they're just like shooting him or hitting him with whatever weapon, and like he's not moving, he's not reacting. The boss is just floating there, like in his little. It's like, what? Like there should be some sort of like recoil or like get away, but no, it's like the boss just stands there until he dies. And it's like, what?
He
the
just
heck?
accepted it.
Yeah.
There was 3 underbosses that we had that did that. One specifically at a church. We were able to just run in, and she just stood there and stared at us. My friend starts shooting her, and she just makes the noises like she's gonna run away. She's like, "No, how could you?" And then just completely stayed still. So you were able to just light her up and kill her. So AI. Man. Terrible. All the way bottom, 0 out of 10.
How does Left 4 Dead 2 have better AI than this game?
Dude, unbelievably so much better.
Crazy.
Story standpoint, I'll give it a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
For an honest opinion, 4 out of 10. Because it was there. It was definitely there, but it definitely took a backseat. Because there were so many other things that people are focused on in that game that the story, you're just like, hey, great, skip. Like, no one cares. And even sitting through it, all of it for myself, I still didn't care. I know that sounds bad, but like they tried, sad. It just didn't matter to me.
Because Arcane always does great stories. Like Prey was great, and I never played a ton of Dishonored, but
Crash was.
But even like Deathloop, like I reached like Deathloop on PS, like that story was incredible. I love that. And so like
it was creative.
So when I was, when Redfall was announced, like that's why I was so stoked about it. Cause I'm like, dude, like Deathloop was awesome, super like creative. And not only gameplay was great, but story was great. And then to hear that Redfall story is kind of like, oh, it's whatever. Like,
it's all right.
It's just so sad because that's like in their DNA is not only like creatively, like artistically, graphically, but also creative, like in their stories. They've always been so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they knock it out of the park. Like Dishonored 2 has probably one of my favorite stories of any of their games. It's super interesting and just, packed with all kinds of different intrigue and characters and things you're gonna remember. You're just flat out gonna remember it. But this one, I couldn't even tell you the first boss's name.
Yikes.
Gotta be honest. I couldn't even tell you like what the first boss's actual name was.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
And I know this is kind of like a crash course through like a review. It was just kind of like randomly spit through, but it's because that's how I felt through the game. I just felt like I was being thrown into random situations and having no context as to why. But the game itself, like I said, from a functional standpoint, I did experience slight hitching every like 5 to 10 minutes. I would just get like a little frame stutter, and then I'd be right back to where I was, no issues.
Okay.
Like, just on an experience of how it functioned, it did decently. Like, just from actually working. Yeah, it at least works. People that were comparing this to Cyberpunk at the beginning have really overestimated how bad this game is, because it's not. It's not as bad as Cyberpunk by any means. Cyberpunk is a working game now, so
barely.
It's there. It's there. The game itself, like, overall, I'm gonna tell you again the same thing I said before. If it is on sale or they drop the price down to like $30-$40, maybe hopefully lower, it's worth it to play with buddies.
30 or lower.
Yeah, 30 or lower. If they fix everything, I could maybe see 40, but even then, no, lower than that would be ideal.
I don't think they're going to get the runway to be able to fix everything. I think they're going to drop this 60 and maybe one piece of DLC and then call it a day.
Yep.
Because they got to get, I guess apparently they're supposed to be adding a couple characters to the game. But I think as soon as they do that, patch it for 60, they're out of there onto the next thing.
I mean, that's just Arcane's kind of track record in general, though. Like, they usually do one piece of DLC and then they move on. Like, that's what they did with the Dishonored games. That's what they did with Prey. They didn't do any DLC for Deathloop, but like usually they do like the game, a DLC, and then move on. So I wouldn't be surprised, but this is unfortunate because this being a more multiplayer focused game, I guess you would hope for more, but I think you're right, Adrian. I think they might stay with their normal trend and be like, we'll just make it work. We'll get it to a working state and maybe give you a little extra, and then we're like, dooces, we're out of here.
Then they're just gonna leave to their next IP.
Yeah.
Like, my honest take, 4 out of 10 overall.
Oof.
But if you play it with friends, maybe a 6 to 7.
Okay.
Playing it with friends, 6 to 7. Playing by yourself, wouldn't even pull it off the shelf.
Dang. Crazy.
Well,
sad.
all I can say is thank you for doing that for us, because
suffering.
Lord knows I wasn't doing it.
That was 35 hours that I wasted on that.
Jeez Louise. Oh.
And I was trying to actively like do all the side stuff too. I wanted to give an honest opinion. Like, I didn't want to come in here and just be like, it's all right, I guess. like I wanted to like really dig into like some of the things that bothered me about it and things that I enjoyed about it. I know that it was very chaotic, that review, but it just the game itself was chaotic, so there wasn't really a place to stand on.
Yeah,
I get you.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for taking that bullet for us. Now I feel like I need to like Venmo you $15 for your Game Pass subscription for the month or something, just to like for your time for that 35 hours. Like, oof.
I know we talked about it before. I canceled my Game Pass as well, so we're good.
All right, cool.
That's closing out. After I took the proverbial shot in the mouth from that stupid game, I'm good.
Thank you so much for watching that clip from our podcast. Remember, if you want to watch the full episode, link will be in the description below. You can click on that and check it out. We got listener questions. We got more news segments. We got what you playing. We got a lot of fun things. So yeah, more than just the news. There's a lot more to the show that you should go check out. So remember, click that link in the description. Check out that full episode.